Hi, I'm Ria.
Hi, I'm Haley, and together we are
Chronicles of a Spoonie,
sharing stories,
creating connections.
So today I feel like I say this every time, today we have Adam joining us. So he's going to be talking to us about, he has a bunch of conditions actually, so he's going to be talking us through all of those, what they are. I know I don't have any prior knowledge of any of them, so this is going to be really informative for me today.
Absolutely. We've read through the list prior to him joining us, and we were both, first of all, stuck on the words and how to pronounce them, so we're hoping we're going to get an education in that, but what they also mean, because we can only know so much from Google, which is one of the things we talk about a lot, that taking Google's word and taking a patient, you're not always going to fit them together because every condition is different, and it's the main reason that we're doing this. So looking forward to meeting him and listening to his story.
Exactly.
Finding out what these words actually mean.
I know, I can't wait. So I think without further ado, we should get Adam in here and get talking to him.
Let's do it. So today with us, we have Adam Billing. And would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself, Adam?
Hi, yeah, I'm Adam, I'm 21 and I'm currently at university studying photography. Okay. So I'm in my second year now. I've done already basically 2 years here because I had to do a foundation as well, just to catch up with everyone else. So yeah, I really enjoy photography and sort of like creative media, like graphic design and stuff like that.
All right, that's amazing. And you have quite a few conditions, don't you?
Yeah, I have quite a list from like primary immune deficiency to bronchiectasis, intracranial hypertension, and also a skin condition as well.
Wow, okay. I think you're going to have to probably correct us on the pronunciations a few times because
definitely
they're a bit long for me. Okay. I have quite a few questions here, and I believe Haley does too, because there's so much that you're going through. Yeah. I mean, how do you cope on a day-to-day basis?
It's a bit of a struggle, especially with the university as well and the workload, and also trying to like have a social life as well. So it's a bit of a struggle. More recently, I've not been able to do as much because of the fatigue catching up and everything like that.
Do you find the weather affects the fatigue?
Yeah, I've definitely, since it started getting a bit like colder and darker, it's just been a lot harder.
Yeah.
And you mentioned sort of, I know you're in uni and doing photography. Have you found that the uni have been really supportive for you? Have you found anything that helps you with getting through the uni work and stuff like that?
Yeah, I feel like they've been quite helpful, especially last year because with lockdown as well, it was even harder than being stuck inside, being high risk and everything. So they've given me extensions and extra one-to-ones as well.
That's fantastic. That is really good. You're enjoying it?
Yeah, I really enjoy it.
And what aspect of photography do you want to do? Do you want to do photo shoots like weddings and stuff, or do you want to go into like magazines?
I kind of want to do like advertising work, so like commercial sort of advertising, whether it's like still life, so like objects and like products and stuff, or like people for campaigns and stuff.
That's wonderful.
That's really cool.
I was watching a TikTok the other day, and they do it for food. And I watched how they prepare the food and pose it, and it's like it looks so amazing. So you like when you see McDonald's and you see that burger with all those gherkins and stuff, but when you turn the camera around, there's nothing in the back of it. Like it was just all sat at the front. It's amazing. It's literally amazing what you can do in photography.
It is. It's like so much of it is an optical illusion, almost, isn't it? Really, with the way things are positioned and stuff like that. It's just, I don't know why I'm talking about it. You're the one who studies it, you know the most about it. But I was going to ask you about what really piqued your interest with photography and what made you want to get into studying it.
I'm not too sure. I think when I was a lot younger, my dad used to have like cameras and stuff as well, and I remember like getting my first little camera, and it was just a cheap little digital Spider-Man one that you just put the SD card in and took automatic photos and stuff like that. And then when I was in school, we had to do work experience.
Yeah.
So we were looking at something that I could kind of juggle alongside like my hospital appointments and stuff like that.
Okay.
That wouldn't take it too much out of me. And I done then, I think 2 weeks at a photography studio. So that really sort of helped me grow my interest in it. So then I went to college to do photography as well.
I love that. I love when an account when you were younger triggers what you end up being.
Yeah.
We've had many conversations about things from memories from being little and how it makes us the person we are today. So I love that. That's beautiful. I love the Spider-Man.
I remember that quite
Marvel
strongly,
fans.
that one. Yeah, I am as well.
There you go.
Yeah,
I love it. There's a new one coming out, isn't there, with Angelina Jolie?
I watched that yesterday. It was really good. I really liked it.
Yeah. So heading over to your health, do you find with your hobbies like photography and stuff like that, that being out in the weather affects, because you've got a chest?
Yeah, bronchiectasis is the chest and lung condition.
Okay, and what is that?
So it's basically part of like I'm trying to figure out how to word it. It's like the bronchi tubes or something in the lungs. They just don't work. So I think it's half of my right lung just doesn't work. So only like my full left one and then half of the right one works. So
you suffer a lot of breathlessness, I take it?
Yeah, I get out of breath quite a lot. Always got like a bad cough as well. And at the moment, with the cold weather and stuff like that, it's been getting a lot worse. And as well, since having COVID, it's been worse, the cough.
Oh, you've had COVID?
Yeah, I had it back in July.
Oh, wow. How are you feeling from that now?
Yeah, I'm feeling better. It's just the fatigue and the cough's been a bit worse.
Yeah, I understand you with the cough. It's not fun. But mentioning the cough, I read earlier that that's one of the symptoms for getting diagnosis. How did your diagnosis happen?
It's kind of like been a long sort of journey to it, because with the primary immune deficiency, it's basically my body doesn't make the blood that fights infections.
Okay.
So then because I don't have that, I then get pneumonia quite a lot. I think I've had pneumonia now about 10 times since I was younger. So then because of all of that, it's just kind of like destroyed my lungs, and then like they knew that like it was getting worse. And I think it was when I was about, I think from between the age of either 8 to 11 that they found it.
Okay. Okay, that's a long time then.
It is, yeah. I guess I know from when we first chatted with you from your application form, that a lot of the conditions started for you around the age of 4, I think it was, wasn't it? And I think that for me it was sort of trying to figure out, was there one of those that was almost like a domino effect, if that's the right term to use, or was there something that started the whole process for you with the conditions? Or
so from what I can remember, from what my mum's told me, like I've had quite a lot of the things since I was like either born or like around 2 years old, like the skin condition they found when I was quite young, but they still don't even really know what that is.
Okay. What's the skin condition, sorry?
I think that what they're calling it now is plane xanthoma.
Okay, yeah.
But like they quite often change their mind with what it is. So they haven't really looked at it in quite a few years now. So I think they're sticking with plane xanthoma. But that was like, my mum said the first one popped up on the back of my neck when I was around 2 or something. And they knew that I wasn't well from quite a young age. And then, because I was born in Holland. So when my mum and dad moved back to England, like that's when we started to get proper sort of diagnosis and stuff like that, and started like my treatment. I started having the immunoglobulins when I was 4. That's kind of, I think from there is where like everything else kind of piles on from it, like the chest thing from the being able to get infections easily, and then the intracranial hypertension from like a side effect of the medication.
Oh,
wow. Yeah, so I suppose it's the hard thing as well. There's so many side effects that you can get just from medications that end up either heightening original symptoms or introducing a whole bunch of new ones, and it ends a sort of snowball effect of what are you compromising with, trying to help the symptoms, you're introducing a whole bunch of new side effects too. But I just want to touch on, you mentioned immunoglobulin there. I wonder what that was. And
so that's Trying to think. I'm not too sure on this part. It's I know that I get, from what I remember, they always check the IgG and the IgA elements.
Yeah.
And yeah, the immunoglobulin is like the part of the blood that they take like out of like blood donations, and then that's the part that like helps boost my
Is this
immune
the
system.
transfusion that you have?
Yeah, the transfusion. I have it every 2 weeks.
And that's hemoglobins. You have that put back into
Immunoglobulin, yeah.
Sorry, hemoglobin. Too many big words.
I think it said immunoglobin. I said immunoglobulin.
Yeah, I've only just been able to learn how to say that one. So.
That's a tongue twister.
Yeah.
And your transfusions that you have, which disease is that one for?
So the main transfusion is like of the immunoglobulin, so that helps the primary immune deficiency. So that then like is basically just a top up of the part of the blood that I'm missing, so that I can then go on for another 2 weeks at like a lesser risk of infections and stuff like that. And then once a month I also have one called pentamidine, which is like just a preventative for like the lung condition.
Right, okay, because I did read earlier that one of the treatments is quite often antibiotics for your lungs, because you're more prone to lung infections. Have you found that you've started to become immune to things like antibiotics, or have they managed to keep it sparse enough that antibiotics still work for you?
I feel like there have been times where I've become like just so used to them that I don't feel like it's helping anymore. I take some tablets 3 times a week, and they stopped that for a few years because it just didn't help anymore. So they gave me a break on that for a couple of years, and now I'm back on it again. I feel like it does help again. But the actual like transfusion, like IV ones, they seem to be okay at the moment.
Okay, that's good. At least you've got a backup. So do you find that you're on a lot of medication, or have they managed to, by giving you infusions and stuff, have they managed to keep that to a minimum?
Yeah, by having the infusions, I'm only on like 1 tablet 3 times a week, luckily, so it's not too many.
No rattling.
No, just 1 box for the week, 1 small box of 3.
Really, really good. I was going to ask, just whenever you mentioned your primary immune deficiency again there, whenever I was doing a little bit of reading, it seems that that's just kind of like an umbrella term for a bunch of conditions. Do you know if there's anything specific, or more information about yours specifically, about what exactly it is, and how did they get to that diagnosis? Because it sounds like it could be quite difficult to get a diagnosis for which exact deficiency it is.
I'm not too sure which exact one it is within that. I've just always been told like primary immune deficiency, but I just know from that, because a lot of it is what my mum's told me from when I've been younger, and because I'm really forgetful anyway. It's only the last few years I've had to try and start remembering it because of being at university and my mum not being like here with me. So I think from what I remember is that there was like, I think I got quite unwell one day, and then they took me to the hospital, and they're doing like loads of bloods and stuff like that. And that's like, I can't remember how long it took them to find it. But I just remember that I started the sort of like medications for it when I was around 4 years old. We used to do, it's been like a bit of a trial and error with it, because I used to have it once a week, every week, up at Great Ormond Street Hospital in London. And then they started doing it through subcutaneous, so like just under the skin, and that would be done once a week, and the nurse would come out to our house and would sort of assist with that. They'd assist my mum like putting the needles in and stuff like that. Okay. But then I think it was about when I was probably 13, they said that like my body wasn't keeping it in long enough, so they needed to do it through IV again. And more of it. And then so that was then every week at the hospital, and that's then when I got my portacath put in, because my veins just couldn't take it. So they used to always try and get like veins in my hands, in my like arms, in my feet and stuff like that, but they just couldn't get any more. So that's when I had the portacath put in when I was 14. And then yeah, since then it's been kind of like on and off from being like once a week, and then I think in the last probably 6 years it's been every 2 weeks, but then just changing the amount and then seeing just like how stable it's been to
I
decide
think
what
that's
to
nice
do.
to have that bit more of a break in between than
Yeah,
going weekly. And I just wanted to say quickly that a portacath is a central line that it sets under the skin. Am I correct? You've got this little nodule under the skin.
yeah,
So if you're from my life, you'll see that I have a line hanging out. Mine's a Hickman. Adam's is a portacath. It still goes to the exact same place. It still is just above the heart. The product will still go straight directly into the heart, but it's a central line nonetheless.
yeah,
And I myself prefer those because you've got the skin will just heal back over, won't it, once you take the little fine needle out.
yeah. Once the
And
needle's out, it's fine then.
and you can
Yeah,
shower and swim and all that sort of stuff without restriction.
yeah,
So I thought that was, but I just wanted to make sure that everyone knew what that was before I could carry on.
So I know you said that obviously you got that port put in whenever, was it 13 or 14 that you
14, yeah,
14?
so 7 years ago now.
That must have been tough with school and things as well. Was that, because obviously once a week having that, I'm guessing there was probably a bit of disruption with school and things too. Was that really hard to manage with that?
Yeah, I missed a lot of school when I was younger, so a lot of time in primary school, like I missed like most of that. So that then meant when I got to secondary school, I was in like the lower sets and trying to always catch up. And then in secondary school, there was a lot of times then when I was off for like weeks on end. And then I think it was around year 9 is when the intracranial hypertension started. So that's like the really extreme headaches. And normally that's caused by like when people get like a meningitis infection or something.
Right.
But for me, I think they kind of decided in the end there was no traces of anything. So they said it was a reaction, like something to do with the immunoglobulins, like the brand that I was on, causing me to like get an extra like excess buildup of fluid in my brain. So then they would have to do lumbar punctures and stuff like that. And that was also around the time I had the portacath put in. So I missed time having the portacath put in. Then I missed about I was going to say 4 weeks, but it was longer than that. I was in hospital for 2 weeks before they done the spinal tap, like lumbar puncture thing. And then I was in hospital 2 weeks after as well, because that made the headache worse because they drained off so much. So I basically missed quite a lot of like year 9 and then starting into GCSEs as well. So then I didn't get very good grades at school. And then like that's why I took like extra work at like college and then doing a foundation year at university as well.
That's what I was about to ask, if you had to do a catch up then to get yourself back into university, but you obviously had such a passion to get where you wanted to. You were willing to do what you needed, which is remarkable. With everything else you got going on, to be putting yourself through college and university, like you should be so proud of yourself. It's a hard thing to do. It really is. It's hard to be ill anyway and suffer on the regular without being able to then mentally push yourself forward and head for your dreams. Like, it's remarkable. It really is.
Thank you.
Definitely, that was the next thing I was going to say, was you should be super proud of yourself.
Yeah, I'm really happy with getting here, because I had to do, like most of the people who I went to school with now, they like graduated back in summer. Whereas because I didn't get good GCSEs, I then had to do a level 2 course at college, which was just a year of like just normal media.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, I was able to get onto the level 3, which was the actual like UAL diploma in photography. And then from there I was able to get into university, but then they would only like let me on to the foundation year. Even though I got the grades to get onto the first year, it was just because being unwell, I hadn't had much time to properly build up my portfolio to get onto the first year. So it was just sort of like an extra step of guidance and stuff. But I got there, and I also managed to get my maths and English resits as well.
Wow, is that where you are now? Are you in a dorm kind of?
I'm in my my private house. So in my foundation year, I was in like student accommodation, and there I met some good friends. So we lived together in a house last year, and then we've moved to a smaller house this year.
And they're really supportive with all your needs and stuff.
Yeah, I have a really close friend, and she's got like medical issues as well. So we kind of both just look out for each other.
That's really nice.
Wonderful. I had a quick question about your hospital, because you said you're under Great Ormond Street. When you get to a certain age, do you have to leave your current doctors and move on to some new ones? One thing I've definitely learned from getting to know people recently is that people who've had conditions from being younger aging up, get a certain doctor to a certain age and then have to move on to some new ones. Don't really like it, because obviously they get used to the same ones. But have you had the same experience? And if you have you found that they give you the same amount of good care, or has it been different in any way?
So yeah, when I started university, I basically within the first like few weeks moving here, my doctor had arranged from Great Ormond Street to meet up with a new doctor. So I'm now under them, and I see an immunology doctor there. But I feel like it has it's changed quite a lot. Because under Great Ormond Street, he kind of like oversaw, even though he's the immunology doctor, he kind of oversaw everything, and like would arrange for me to have like checks of my chest and lungs. He'd also get like the skin doctor to come and see me. And then I don't know if it's just because of like everything with COVID recently, but I've only seen the one doctor. And so, I haven't really been able to see like a proper lung doctor. And it's been also harder then because I technically don't have a doctor at the hospital here.
Okay.
So when like last year, I had another sort of flare up of the headaches and I needed another lumbar puncture. So that took a lot of going to A&E back and forth to try and get an appointment with a doctor. Luckily, the doctor was able to try and push that through quite quickly. But it's just a lot harder not having an actual doctor at this hospital.
And not having that same regular person that you know, and they know you, and they know your needs and stuff like that.
Yeah, because my doctor at our local hospital back at home, he was my doctor from when I was 4 until I was 19. So he like watched me grow up and everything.
Yeah.
But there was a big sort of problem with that as well, because he wanted to keep me under his like watch until I'd finished college and moved away to university. But at the start of that year, I think it was 2019, he ended up having a stroke. So everything they just kind of suddenly chucked me out of the children's ward. They wouldn't let me go there for my treatment because they were like, we can't do it now. So we would turn up and like I just went weeks without my treatment as well.
Wow.
So everything kind of went wrong then. And then my porta cath also got blocked. And there's a lot when the doctors don't know you, they just kind of like assume that like I'm being dramatic and stuff like that. So they tried to get lines in my hands, which then made my hand go like all numb, cold, and I couldn't move it at all and stuff like that. Yeah, this doctor, he just he didn't know me at all, and they tried to convince me into letting them put like a cannula in because my port was blocked. And I did, but I let them convince me because they got like an ultrasound machine and they were going to like find a perfect vein, and they put it in. But as soon as you tried to then start putting like morphine or something through it, my whole arm just went white and I got shooting pains up my arm, and I just then couldn't move my arm at all whilst the needle was in. And they just thought I was being dramatic about it, but
you know yourself better than they'll ever know you.
Yeah,
I think that's a really common theme that seems to be coming up is, a change of doctors or moving to a new area or a different hospital. The amount of, I don't want to say issues, but the amount of fighting people have to do to make themselves believed and heard just blows my mind.
Yeah.
It's awful. But I do hope that you do start to get the care that you need and deserve from the hospital that you're in now. It's definitely something, even with COVID, it's definitely something they should be looking into and giving you the scans and the tests that you need to make sure that you're okay. Like breathing's important.
Yeah.
Definitely, and especially given with COVID, and you mentioned that you've had to go to A&E at times last year, you know, to try and get through that process to get the treatment you needed. And for somebody like yourself who is immunodeficient to have to sit and wait in an open space in A&E during a pandemic.
Yeah. Yeah, luckily the most recent time I went to A&E, they did like they put me in a side room, which was good. They knew about that, and
that's good.
But yeah, they still put me in with like a whole bunch of people on a ward for a few days, so it was a bit like still a bit uneasy.
Yeah,
it's wild. It's almost like sometimes it's almost like they've forgotten what the pandemic is.
Yeah.
My local hospital, although it's A&E, is getting shut down now. You all wait in the same line to book yourself in, and then they have separate if you've been COVID positive before or non-COVID positive before, and then you wind up back together again. It was like, well, what was the point? There was no alcohol gel, no nothing, and you could all still use the machines and get water out of the dispenser. It was. Do you know there's a pandemic outside? Like, do you know what's going on? That's absolutely wrong. One of the things we haven't mentioned, and I just wondered where it fell into with the domino effect, and also how you ended up being diagnosed with it, is you have an enlarged liver and spleen.
Yeah, liver and spleen.
Okay, so I was wondering, like, where in your domino effect did that fall? Is it because of another illness that you've got that, and like, how did you find out that you had them? How did you find out they were enlarged?
So I think that was kind of like one of the original conditions as well. So like with the primary immune deficiency, it's called systemic mastocytosis. So I remember like my mum, I'm pretty sure she was on some like Google sort of forums or something like that, and she was just trying to reach out for people to kind of like help and try and figure out what it was, because at that point doctors didn't know much about it.
Yeah.
And neither did like many people didn't know and stuff like that. So it was around that similar age of like 4 that it was kind of found. And I feel like my mum she's quite good at that. She Googles our symptoms and kind of catches on quite quickly to what it could be. So she found out about this mastocytosis and how rare it is. So she kind of took that information to the doctor, and they kind of agreed with her that it was that.
Okay.
So yeah, from that, because it wasn't really well known about, my mum ended up finding like kind of reaching out online and finding other people with it, and they started a support group together.
That's fantastic.
Which they're not part of now. My mum isn't, because it just got quite a bit much. So, but it's like the whole charity's like still going now, and yeah, it's quite a big known sort of thing now. So there's a lot more support for them now.
So your family, are they super supportive? Do you have brothers or sisters?
Yeah, so my mum has been the main one, because she's always like been, when I used to have my treatment at home, she would always be the one to help like the nurses do it. She was trained to do it. Whenever I had to have it at the hospital, she would take me every week, up until probably I was about, she's been coming with me basically until just before I started at university, because I then needed to kind of get my independence a bit more.
Yeah.
But she would come and sit with me the whole 3, 4, even sometimes 5 hours that I was there having it done. So yeah, mainly my mum, but my younger brother as well. He's like missed out quite a lot because of all of the sort of attention that I've needed for being unwell. So he's really supportive, and he told me recently that I'm his favorite brother. So that made me happy to know that he's still all right with me. But he now goes to university down the road from me as well, so we see each other a lot more now.
Is he your only brother?
I have 2 older brothers as well. My oldest, he's always like been there for us as well, but because he's a lot older, he's nearly 40, I think. So yeah, when my mum moved back back to England from Holland, he stayed in Holland with his dad.
Okay.
because he had a job and a life there, and he was nearly 20 at that point, so he stayed there. So, and then this second, like the one above me, he's always been supportive as well, but his health isn't great at the moment. He's got kidney failure and he's blind as well and diabetic.
Well, I was about to ask, do any of them have the same illnesses as you? But I'm guessing it doesn't run in the family then, your conditions.
No, mine are all very sort of randomly thrown together somehow, and the doctors just don't know where they've come from. My younger brother used to have a type of the mastocytosis, which was mainly like skin irritation and stuff like that, and like this sort of rash, but he's grown out of it when he got older.
Wow, that must be a lot for your mum to go through.
Yeah, she's always had to do quite a lot of extra stuff to look after us, and now her health's not good either, so everything at the moment is a bit like, my health's not great, and she's also got like level 3 kidney failure, so and a problem with her left ventricle as well in her heart. So everything's going on a bit at the moment with everyone's health.
Must be tough on you as well, having, you know, being away from your mum, I suppose, as well, for so long, you know, your mum being with you and going to appointments and stuff with you too, and now that distance between you, as well as, you know, her health too. It must be really tough for you.
Yeah, it makes me, I worry more about her health than mine at the moment.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. It's just heartbreaking, really. After she's supported you guys through everything you're going through, to now go through her own journey, it must be really, really hard. Does she have her own support system?
Yeah, she has a few people at home. Most of her family are still in Holland, so her sister and her brother are still in Holland, and like my cousins, and so it's a bit harder in that way because they haven't been able to see each other since before COVID. But yeah, my mum's got my older brother now. He lives down the road, like the oldest one. And then Jeffrey, the one with like kidney failure, he used to live up north, but he's just moved back to the town, so my mum can kind of help him get to hospitals and stuff. So she's now kind of like being there more for him than me, because he needs the extra support now.
My goodness, so does kidney failure then run in the family, because with her and your brother having it as well?
I'm not too sure. I think he's got it because he's diabetic, and when he was younger he didn't really take it that seriously. So he's got type 1, and my mum's got type 2 diabetes. So it's, and I think diabetes kind of does run in the family, like my nan had it, and so
luckily that's one of the things you skipped. So touch wood. I'm so used to people know what I'm doing that I just do it automatically, but I always say my noggin's made of wood, so say touch wood. My goodness, it's a lot for a family to go through. It really is.
Yeah.
It really is. I had kind of wanted to go back and talk a little bit more about the plane xanthoma you'd mentioned as well, and potentially plane xanthoma, depending on what the doctors decide to call it, I guess. I was just kind of interested a bit more about what that was and how that came about and things like that.
So when I was younger, also another one of the originals, they don't know what's caused it. They don't know like what it is really. There's been quite a lot of like talk over the years. They don't think they know anyone else who's got it, so there was talk of them like naming it after me and stuff like that, but then they kind of like settled with plane xanthoma. I think they just couldn't figure it out, so they kind of labeled it that. But it's basically this, you can't see it very well now, but it's just this kind of like yellowy sort of skin, like raised patches. So it's around my eyes, it's down my neck, on my back, all the way down my arms, and like on my legs as well.
Wow. Does it, what's the symptoms of it? Does it itch, or is it just a visual?
No, it's just visual. The only time it really itches or hurts is when a new one's starting up. It starts as like a little red sort of raised dot that's like itchy and irritating, and then it's weird because I kind of like can visualize it kind of like spreading, like just kind of like going down but spreading out and going like a yellowy orangey color.
Yeah.
And do you find that there's anything in particular that triggers it for you?
No, it's just there really.
Yeah.
Like I quite often forget I've got it anyway, but unless like sometimes when I go out and stuff, I kind of then I'm just walking along and then I kind of like remember it's all over my face. So then I kind of start to panic then that people are like looking at it or something like that. But most of the time I just try and ignore it.
That was one of my other questions that you just mentioned there. With everything that you've got going on, do you find that you suffer with a bit of mental health, whether it be depression or anxiety, that's from the medical side of it?
Yeah. I mean currently at the moment like noting stuff down to talk to the GP about anxiety and stuff. But yeah, definitely with like this around my eyes, the skin condition part, people at school used to say like take the mick out of me and say that I was wearing makeup and like would call me an alien because my face looked different and stuff like that. So definitely every time like when I'm out and like it's strange because it kind of suddenly just hits me that I've got it again and then that people might be looking at it.
I guess it's hard for you because if it's on your body, you put extra clothes on if you feel subconscious that day, and no one's none the wiser because it's clothes. But I guess with it being a focal point, it's something that you personally have to really be okay with. And with kids have this pure innocence about them. And it's a very beautiful thing because they say it as they see it. And by doing that, sometimes they educate us and they have no idea they've done it. Sometimes they humor us and they give you that look because they're like, wait, why are you laughing? But again, it's just their pure innocence. And sadly, sometimes they hurt our feelings. And I wondered, with going up into university now, where we're adults and we have filters and, we know how to behave more in public with other people, whether you feel more comfortable and less subconscious about it, and if you wanted to wear makeup that you felt you could.
Yeah, like no one, like at school it would get mentioned quite a lot, even sometimes at college, but like basically since college, like no one ever mentions it at all. Like sometimes I get just a curious person asking like what it is, but like when it's like that I'm okay like answering and just explaining it, but yeah, when they're kind of like just being like, oh, you wear makeup or you look like an alien sort of thing, like then yeah, because the doctors have like said to me before that there's like a type of makeup I can put over it, but then when I was younger I kind of felt like then that's more of a reason for them to pick on me because then I actually am wearing it, but now being older I have like thought about maybe doing it to cover it up, but probably not gonna, because it's just easier just to be as I am and people just can think whatever.
You're just right.
Yes, and stay true to who you are, because you are a handsome young gentleman and you have a lot of kindness and compassion for so many other people, and that's what I see when I look at you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's hard whenever you've had that experience as a child. It's always going to be in the back of your head. Even as an adult going out, you're sitting thinking, even people aren't, if they're not saying it to my face, they're maybe still thinking it, and that's part of the anxiety, the fear of worrying about what people are thinking about it. But I think that was a really good point that you said about not wearing the makeup, because you shouldn't have to change who you are to stop other people from staring at you or from making comments, because even if you can have that one person that comes up to you and asks you what it is and it educates them about it, to me that's worth, it doesn't excuse anything by any means, but to me that would make it a little bit more worthwhile, knowing that you've actually been able to raise a bit of awareness or educate somebody about this is what this condition is and how it affects me.
With your condition in a whole, do you know what the future lies? Will some of them progressive? will they progress into new diseases, or have you been educated on that?
Not really. They haven't really spoke too much about the future. The furthest we've gone was when I was 15. They did mention a bone marrow transplant, and they said if I wanted that, it would be within the next 5 years is the key time to do it. But being 15, I didn't want to do that because I didn't want to miss more school. I just wanted to try and get on and have a normal life and do the normal things like university and finish college and stuff like that. So, and just go out and do things.
Was the was that for the mastocytosis side of things?
For the primary immune deficiency, because it just basically affects a lot of the blood things. So I said no to that then, but more recently, I remember talking to you about it, Ria, where like it came up again, and I had a few appointments back in September, and they were like, they didn't really tell me what was going on. They just suddenly started setting me up with loads of like bone marrow clinic transplant like appointments. So that was quite worrying. But they've said like it's possible for the future now.
Good.
But with COVID being around and stuff, it really made I think it was my white count drop. So they were like very worried there. So they were like thinking of doing a bone marrow biopsy to see how the bone marrow was and to see what the blood was doing. But by the time they got around to like thinking about doing that, the blood level's gone back up. So they put it down to COVID, just kind of messed it all up. But it was quite a worrying sort of couple of weeks because I thought that like I was going to be in hospital like immediately and having like because they'd already started testing again to find potential donors and stuff like that.
Do you find with your conditions as well, then with having such a prominent immune deficiency, that you struggle with your vitamins levels? Do you have to have any extra boosts, like injections or tablet wise, to boost up your vitamins, or have they stayed stable?
I think they've stayed quite stable. I haven't been told to take anything sort of extra. The vitamin sort of area is quite sort of okay. The main sort of like worry at the moment is just like the platelets, because I have really low platelets anyway. And then they've gone in the last year. I've noticed like the doctors don't ever really understand me when I say it this way, but I get like a purple dot rash all over my arms and legs. And I get that whenever my platelets are low. And the last year it's just been constant, and they just said that unless it goes below 10 or something, they can't really do anything about it.
Have you found that you also lose a bit of sensation in your hands when that rash comes up?
Yeah, a little.
I'm the same. I get them. I know when my platelets are low, so I know when to go and get tested, because I get the rash and my hands just go like, it's almost like a numb, it's almost like there's no circulation in there for me.
Yeah, I get it just kind of like in my fingers.
And the random bruises just turn up absolutely everywhere. And it's like, well, what did I bang myself on today? Or what did I bang myself on last night? Like, there's just no rhyme or reason to them. They just appear. I didn't know you had a platelet deficiency too, but I had thought that might be what your infusion was. I didn't know if you were getting infused with some platelets.
No, not currently. They've said if it goes below like 10, mine are always in around 40 or 50.
Oh, that is low.
But more recently have been like 30, but they won't do anything unless it's below 10.
That's interesting, because where I am, it's below 80. Anything below 80, they'll intervene. Then I guess that means going to somebody specific, which you've probably got, and then it's probably that lower one. Do you know a lot about your platelets?
Not really. All I know is that about 50 is normal for me. That's just normal. And if I get the rash after that, then I know it's low. When I get the rash usually goes when it's about 50. But I know that's low for people.
Is the rash the only symptom you've got for your platelets?
The rash, like you say, like the tingling in the fingers, like I've got it. This finger's been going off for quite a few days now. And also like I do every so often get really bad nosebleeds where they just won't stop for like 20 minutes, half an hour.
Yeah, I've never had them in my entire life, and all of a sudden they just be there.
Yeah.
I find as well my gums bleed when I brush my teeth now. So I know when they're low as well because my gums will just start bleeding randomly. So
Yeah.
it's a very intensive system, because you can't, like you say, we know from certain symptoms that we've got it happening at that time, but you can't actually see what it's doing. I think that's one of the hardest things with any condition really is that you can't see how it's behaving, and therefore coping with it is that little bit harder, because what's it doing at the moment? Where am I at with it at the moment? You know, it's not mentally it's hard.
Yeah.
It sounds like you've got a really good support network going on. Do you find just in general that discussing some of your symptoms, you find you can't because of what they are?
I think sometimes. Not too sure on that one.
By that I mean, like, I'm open, you know that I'm an open book, and I will tell you, and I tell everybody that will ask, that for me going to the bathroom is like, if you were going to go in after me, it'd be like going into a morgue on a hot summer's day when the fridge is broken, you know, because of the smell. I'm open about that because I was taught when my dad was diagnosed with cancer that there was no TMI. As Hayley knows, you could talk about absolutely anything to me, the smell, the consistency, whatever you want to talk about. I don't care. If you need to talk about it, talk about it. But I know that not everybody is an open book. So I guess my query is, do you sometimes have a bad day where you'll have a symptom that you don't feel you can open up about? Does that happen to you, or are you able?
Yeah, I think so, because just generally always like achy and stuff, and so I get quite bad stomach aches and stuff like that. And yeah, just
so you know, you can always open my inbox and talk to me about stuff like that. There is no TMI level with me. You can say, Rhea, do you know what, I had this fluffy brown poop today that smelled like this, specifically like this food, like I'm feeling a bit, you know, down about it, and I will not turn around and go, oh my god, what the hell. I'd literally listen, because I know sometimes it's the little things like that that really affect us mentally, where we just sit there and deal with it. You can ask Hayley some of the voice memos she gets off of me now that she's my friend. She's so lucky, because I feel like after I said it, like I feel so much better, you know, just knowing that somebody's heard me and said, I hear you. It makes it better. So if you ever do have a day where you feel like something's happening, that you just want to talk about it, but you don't feel like people would take kindly to it, just open up my inbox, and I will always listen.
Thank you.
It's so hard because so many symptoms, there's so much taboo still around so many different symptoms in different parts of your body and all that sort of stuff, and it's hard sometimes to know whether something's normal or not, because you're sitting going, I don't have anybody to talk to about this specific issue. I don't know if this is an issue. I don't know if this is normal. And there is still just such a taboo around it. You know, it's, how do you break down those walls of talking about like bodily fluids and functions, you know, without that stigma. Exactly. So I guess kind of wondering if there's anything that you find, you know, given that you do have a number of conditions, is there anything that you find symptom wise has become apparent or worsened with all those conditions? You know, do you suffer with anything that's not specifically a symptom of each of those conditions?
So main ones are sort of like fatigue and also brain fog, because I am, especially being back at university now, like it's not full on full time, but last year was all online, so going back now to 2 full days in person of like 5 hours each day is very sort of full on and draining. And then also sometimes having my treatment the day after as well. It's like 3 full on days, so then the fatigue really catches up with me by like the Thursday. So that's a big key one that's like just part of everything. And also the brain fog, because I don't even have to be like overall like tired or fatigued, it can just happen anytime, where I can sit there and kind of like try and take stuff in, but it won't go in. And it will be like I'm not sort of like listening, but I am, and I'm trying to take it in, but I just don't remember anything after, which is like, it really doesn't help, because I have a bad memory as well. So when the brain fog starts kicking, I kind of like zone out, and then like people are trying to talk to me about stuff, and I'm trying to remember stuff for the course, and it just kind of all kind of jumbles into one. Then then after that, it's just gone straight away.
Have you looked into maybe talking to a doctor about things like fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome, to see if it could be one of them that's causing it?
I haven't. I feel like I've already got some sort of like the chronic fatigue. I can't remember. I think it's in part of one of my conditions anyway, that I've got that. So I know it's always bad anyway. It's just more recently it's been even worse, going back to, I think we've only been back 4 weeks, and each week it's only been 2 days in person, but then by the Thursday and the weekend I'm just like sleeping through all of my alarms and in bed till like 12, 1ish.
Yeah, definitely with chronic fatigue and things like that with fibromyalgia, routine is such an important part of it. And so when you've not had the routine, like going to college every day, getting up and going out and that lot, your body then just kicks your butt basically, and your body can't deal with it. And like you say, like when you can stop, you crash out, you sleep, because the body's then like so exhausted from not having normal routine that it just needs time to recover. But obviously at university and with your health, routine must be a really hard thing to have.
Yeah, it's really hard. Like it changes every week as well, the timetable. So 2 weeks ago I was in Monday and Tuesday, 5 hours each day, and then hospital the day after. And then this week, that's just happening now, it's kind of been like an independent reading week. So it's gone from full on that week to then nothing this week. So Monday this week was the first day I woke up in like 4 or 5 weeks feeling actually refreshed after I'd slept.
Wow.
But then like by Monday evening again, it wore me out because everything changed again. And then next week on Monday, I'm in for 6 hours instead, because they've added on an extra session for us. So
yeah,
I'm in from like 10 until 5 on Monday, and then 10 until 4:30 on Tuesday.
And with we talked a lot about getting emotional support from family and friends. Do you find you get support from other places, and financially? Do you get do you manage to get yourself some help financially to help with things you need? Like if you need, for me, I need somebody to take me places. I have a wheelchair, so I physically would need somebody to take me, so I get help with like costs and stuff like that. So I get like a carer's allowance amount. Do you get help with stuff like that, so to pay somebody to help you get around and about?
Yeah, so I always struggled to get a job, so I can't really do anything in that area. Since being back in September, I've had about 10 interviews, and just nowhere will hire me because of like my lung conditions. And like I know it's because of that, even if they don't really say it, they kind of say along the lines of like, oh, this involves heavy lifting, are you okay to do that with like bad lungs? And I know I can do it because I've done retail work a few years ago before I started university. But now I'm mainly for like hospital visits and stuff like that, I rely on personal independence payment. So I've been getting that for the last few years, and I've had to renew it recently, so I'm hoping it should be renewed in time for January. Otherwise then I don't really know what to do, because that's when mine expires. But my mum's had a long fight even trying to get that for me, because they like, I go to the assessment things and they see me kind of walk down the corridor to the room, and they kind of reject me straight away and say that, oh, he can walk, so he doesn't need the support. So I'm a bit worried about that at the moment. With I'm going to have to do another sort of like review, and they'll most likely reject it again, because it's been rejected 3 times before, and then the last time my mum appealed it, so we had to go to the court and everything, and kind of like try and explain it even more. and they finally awarded it to us at the appeal, and like my mum got really emotional, like cried sort of thing in the courtroom, which it doesn't even really feel like that long ago, but now it's possible going to finish again. And without that, like I can't afford to get to my hospital appointments weekly, and like I can't really walk very far, so I have to like get the bus all the time places, and with my student loan, like that just about gets me like the accommodation and the food, so can't then really get many places without the PIP as well.
It's a lot of appointments to go to, you know, that it's exactly
Yeah.
what it's there for, but it's because there's so many people that go for it that don't actually need it, and we have the trouble then that for the people that do need it really struggle to get it. And like you said, your mum became emotional because the court is an extreme thing to have to do, and 9 times out of 10 the court will already have given it to you, but you just have to go through the rigmarole of proving it, just so they have a reason to say, hey, why haven't you given it? So on so many accounts that people have gone in there and it turns out they had the points to be awarded, they just didn't give it to them. It's such a poorly run system for sure, and to put yourself and other people that's just unwell as well, like you, through the stress of going through it anyway. The whole assessment is so intimidating and so invasive, to then turn you down and you then have to fight it as well as fight for your life all the time. It's awful.
Yeah, it's really sort of frustrating to try and have to convince them that things are wrong, when even refilling out my application form, I had to sit with my mum on a call for probably about 5-6 hours to fill it out, because I don't know how to do it myself with like the brain fog and everything else going on. Like she knows that I'm not good at not that I'm not good at managing money, but when I see money go into my account, I stress. When it goes out, I get stressed, and everything kind of just builds up in that way. So she's like always been the one to have to help me sort of fill out the forms and get on to people to sort it out.
There is a really good place, you probably heard of it, the Citizen Advice Bureau, and they can help you fill it out. But also, and this for anybody listening, in most areas, in most counties, if you type in benefits advocate in your area for a one-off payment, and it's not normally like big, it used to be 50, I think it's between 50 and 75 now, they will do it all for you. They will fill out your forms, and then if you have to go to court, they will go with you to the court and they will fight for you. And it's such a good system that not enough people know about. And it's all down to people who used to work for the benefits, who think that it's run wrongly and want to help those who really deserve it to get what they need and what they deserve from the system. So maybe for Generate, it might be worth having a look. You just type in benefits advocate, the county you're in, and normally you get a list up. And I know someone who had one of them help, and it was just so much, the stress that was taken off of them. It really helped, and they suffer with a very severe anxiety and depression, so it was a really good help. So maybe worth having a look into for your reunion.
Yeah, definitely. It would help with your mum as well, with her going through so much too. You know, I'm sure it's probably looming in her mind as well, knowing that's coming up, what she went through last time. It's really dredging up all those memories of it again, and the fear of what's going to happen this time for you, along with everything she's going through. So it would maybe help as well, you know, take the pressure off, the burden off the entire family, really, of the fear of that going through. And it's so wrong that that's the case, and you shouldn't have to think to yourself that because you can walk that you aren't entitled to. I think that's just it's so sad that that's the way the system is, that you have to make yourself look worse than you actually are to make it, you know, really clear. You know, just because you look well or just because you come across well doesn't necessarily mean you are well. And it's really unfair.
They judge it on if you can walk. I think it's like 50 feet or something. I'm not too sure how far, but they don't even really get you to test it. Like every time I've gone for the test, like the because it's supposed to be like then like checking you out and seeing if like you need it and stuff. Every time I've gone, they don't say that, oh, this is the actual physical test to establish how far you can walk and if you have to stop to get out of breath and like catch a breath and stuff like that. They just kind of, they sneakily do it when you're walking in.
Yeah.
But even then, I still get out of breath walking down the corridor from the waiting room to their office, but they still put it down as like, no, he didn't need to stop, he didn't need to do this, so he's okay, sort of thing.
It's awful. It really is.
Yes, I think that was all the questions that I had, Ria. I don't know about you, if you had.
Oh, I think I've asked enough questions today. Like, I had a lot and you answered every single one of them perfectly. I appreciate that. Thank you so much for educating us tonight and raising awareness. I know it can't have been the easiest thing to talk through, especially with brain fog, as we spoke about. So thank you so much for being here with us and sharing your story.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's been really informative, and I hope everybody's learned something from this, because I know I've learned a few new words, if nothing else, but I've learned a lot about new conditions and things, and maybe I'll perfect the pronunciation of them someday.
Is there anything you would like to say before we end? Anything you'd like to share?
Yeah, so I was just gonna briefly mention about how important blood donation is. With the primary immune deficiency, like all of my medication is made from parts of the blood. And quite recently with COVID and less blood donations, it's meant there's a really short supply of the medication that I need. So I just wanted to kind of talk about how important it is to donate blood. And yeah, if possible, if people could go out and do that. It's not too much of a lengthy process. So yeah.
They get a cookie and a cup of tea at the end.
Yeah, cookie and a cuppa.
And is there anything about yourself you'd like to share, some social media links or anything?
Yeah, so social media links will be like on the website and below, to my photography and my TikTok and just my personal Instagram as well.
Thank you. We really appreciate you having been here with us, and please keep us up to date on your journey. We would really like to hear how you're getting on.
Definitely, we wish you all the best with it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Take care of yourself, and we'll speak to you soon.
Yeah,
thanks for chatting with us.
Bye, Jan. Bye.
Bye, Adam.
Bye. Thank you.
So again, I'd love to thank Adam for sharing his story today. Like, that was just mind-blowing.
That was so informative. There was just so much more to it than I expected.
I think when we read what we read on Google, like I was saying before, you know, I wasn't expecting it being as in depth that it is. Like, it's like a rabbit hole, really. And it was a lot to take in. It really was. I feel like I've learned a lot, but have got a lot to compartmentalize, kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be one that we process for a while after, I imagine.
Absolutely. And his positivity, the way just about life in general, and he just, I don't know, I was in awe of him.
Yeah, likewise. He just seems to battle on through it and nothing phases him.
Absolutely. And like he said, his social medias, if you'd like to follow him, both his photography and just him in general, it'll be below on the YouTube channel, and it'll be on the website, so you can go and have a look and check him out.
Yeah, definitely. And then also, I know he already mentioned it, but just to reiterate that instead of choosing a charity for donations, Adam had chosen that you know, if anybody wanted to, they would go and do a blood donation, because he relies on that quite heavily for his treatment of his conditions. So we thought that was a really nice idea. And again, the links for that will be on the website. But in the meantime, you know, just feel free to pop it into a Google search for looking for blood donation centres near you. You know, every drop of that blood will make a difference, especially for the likes of Adam. You know, he really needs that. So
yeah, and like you said, you know, it's not an overbearing thing. It's a quick needle in, sit there, read a magazine, and get a really good either cake or cookie at the end with a cuppa. Like, can't beat that.
exactly.
Cuppa and cookie. I mean, if I could eat, I'd go for that. That's for sure. But you just that one little moment you sat there for that one moment means so much to people like Adam. And so think about it. If you've not done it before, have a think and just think what half an hour of your time could mean to someone like Adam. So that would be us now. But before we go, have a spoonful of knowledge like we do every week. Hayley, what is it this week?
Yeah, so this one heavily took inspiration from Adam today, just telling us about his journey, where he started, where he's got to. And I think it's really important to just note for everybody that, you know, life is not a race. We're all on our own tracks, and just because somebody gets to a goal faster than you doesn't make your journey any less valid. And, you know, for him going on to do his photography course, you know, he mentioned that, you know, the people, his classmates, were graduating already this past summer. You know, it's just important that you focus on your own journey, because once you get to where you want to go to, that is going to be your proudest moment. And, you know, you're not in a race with anybody else. Everybody's working towards their own goal, and you can just focus on yourself, and that's what really matters.
Absolutely. And the fact that he's doing it, he's got his group of friends, he's got his support team, and, you know, he's, like he spoke about, he's had to do extra things to get to where he is, and he's not disheartened. He's still pushing forward, and I think he's a very inspirational young gentleman.
Very much so, and I hope that's what everybody's taken away from it today.
Absolutely. So that's it for us this week. We'll see you again in a few weeks, and take care of yourselves.
Yeah, we'll speak to you all soon. Bye.
Bye.